Hello everybody, it's update time. I wanted to do this now for a few days. Let's see, today's Tuesday. This happened Friday, and I wanted to kind of update everybody as to what that was. A brother in the congregation had been wanting to talk with me for some time. We talked about almost a year ago. I know it was last spring, spring last year, and we talked about some different things and about how I felt about some of the things going on in the organization and how that was bothering me, and I didn't care for it. I didn't see where they were making the right measures to take care of it properly. And so I thought, well, if I had trusted him anyway, because he was, that type of person. He used to be a CO for quite a number of years. And, I just had that respect for him. I think it's mostly because he reminds me of my father. But anyway, if he wanted to get me in trouble, he could have done it multiple times already. So I wasn't worried about that. I wasn't worried about, getting into trouble for something. I've mentioned before that I don't really care about that. But he wanted to talk some more about those issues. I thought, yeah, we'll do that. So we met on Friday. He actually came pick me up. We went to Starbucks, and we talked about 2.5 hours. And I had mentioned some things to him about stuff that's going on and how that's affecting other people. So the idea is always one-sided. Apostates are bad people. They want to get everybody else out of the religion. They want to hurt everybody's spirituality, all this stuff. And so I was kind of approaching that from the other side with him. And so I had mentioned to him about the vast apostate army and them going to Watchtower to try and get the governing body to come out and reason with him. And he claimed he didn't know anything about that. Now, I don't think he was telling me the truth on that. I think he did, because he knows a lot of people there. He's in contact with a lot of people there, so I'm pretty sure he knew about it. Now, he might not have known particulars. So I basically told him about it, and I just said, the idea behind the whole movement was the fact that they want Watchtower to change some policies. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I want to make sure that I'm right about this, because this is the way I presented it. I let him know that one of their issues was they want to see an end of the 2-witness rule, but from what I read out of it was as it pertained to sexual misconduct, especially child abuse. And I really think that, that's a big thing, because the 2-witness rule, in a lot of respects, some things it doesn't work, but I understand why they stick to it. But again, when it comes to child abuse, that's a different story, and we all know this. And so I mentioned that, and I told him how this has gone on. And really, the last year when we talked, I mentioned to him about the Australian Royal Commission, and he claimed he didn't know anything about that. But maybe he looked into it, maybe he asked about it, maybe he did know about it, I don't know. But he did, I mentioned it again, and he did remember us talking about that, and he said he has heard some stuff about that. And so, I told him, I said, it's rampant. And he did agree. Yes, it is. Child sexual abuse throughout the organization has gone on and has not been dealt with correctly. He does agree with that, which I'm glad to see somebody's like that. And I know not every elder out there is in agreement with Watchtower on a lot of those things. And a lot of those have had to deal with that issue. My father was one of them. And I've had friends also that also have had to deal with that, and as elders. And so yeah, it's a big problem, and we want to make sure that this is done right. So I told him, I said, let's face it, a child's not going to have somebody right there to corroborate their story if they claim they've been abused. And I brought out the problem of this child having to face their accuser in front of a committee of brothers, and how that's, and he agreed that's, that doesn't work. But this is something he told me, and I don't know, I'm going to say that I believe him, just because he hasn't struck me as someone that would be lying to me just to appease my conscience, or make me feel better. I don't see that happening, but it could be. There's possibility of that, but I just for the sake of argument, I'm going to believe him on this, and I do. And he brought out that according to the instructions from the Watchtower, letters written, and I know some of these have been spread around. Maybe not all of them have, maybe they have. I don't know. I really just don't know. But the idea is that they don't use the two-witness rule anymore. They cannot use the two-witness rule when it comes to child sexual abuse, because of the fact that not another person is not going to be there witnessing this. But and I know in the past they say, oh, okay, if more than one person has complained about it, they can use that. Well, even that is not just that mandatory. It's anybody that accuses somebody, they have to look into it. And so this is a situation where I can see why the society would say, okay, call first, we'll let you know to go from there. But in a situation where that this is true, and you've gone to the person and say, hey, have you done this? Yes, I have. Okay, let's go to the cops, and then we'll worry about the other stuff later. And I told him that's the way I thought. And he kind of agreed somewhat. Not completely, but he did agree with why I brought that out. But the idea is that they can't just automatically say that the child is lying, or they can't use that as evidence. And according to him, the idea now is that all the instructions coming from the branch facility is saying you have to follow this, because all across the board, everybody has to follow these same instructions, and this is why. And the reason why is because they, many times, and we know this to be true, I've seen it personally, many of you have seen it personally too, elders use their own idea, say, I don't think that's right, so therefore you're in trouble for doing this, or something like that. So it's no longer, there's no longer any position or situation out there where they have to make their own decision on whether something's right or wrong. It's based upon what they're told. So yeah, that takes a lot of ability out of their hands. But at the same time, when it comes to a delicate situation, some of these guys are not equipped to handle that. And so it's mentioning, allow them, encourage them to seek counseling, because the society knows that, yeah, these brothers are not equipped to handle that, and only professionals can do that. Now, if there is somebody in the congregation that's a professional, well, then that would be a nice thing, if that's what the person wishes, if that's what the victim wishes to do. That's completely up to them. But yes, that needs to be done, and he understands that, and he stipulates that the society is setting rules and regulations for the brothers in each of the congregations to make sure that happens. Now, whether they do or not, it's a different story. But the Watchtower is sending out these letters, and apparently what I'm seeing from it is that they're washing their hands so that they keep from getting sued from that. But individuals, see, that's where the problem lies. And according to him, if they don't follow those proper procedures, that means they will get removed. And he himself has been in a lot of those situations as a CO, and even when he was an elder. And many times, he's had to deal with child sexual abuse, and he didn't like how a lot of those things were being kept secret. So hopefully they're trying to do the right thing, because that's what's important, right? To do the right thing. Any organization, whether it's a religious organization or something else, let's do the right thing. And if they're not going to do the right thing, then they need to either come in line and do it or get out. And that's just the way it is. So maybe they're making steps in the right direction, and maybe it's not happening fast enough, but at least it is something. I will give them that. I will give them that if what he's telling me is true, and I'm just going to put myself in the situation where I believe what he's saying. And seeing is believing. So I'll just wait and see. And if that turns out to be wrong, then I will get on here and state that myself. But it was interesting that he was willing to open up about that, because that is a sore spot for me and for thousands and thousands of others out there throughout this earth that have dealt with that with this organization. So with that being said, I'm going to put that to rest for now. A couple other things we talked about were let's see. I talked to him about this being the only religion, and I mentioned to him again about the Australian Royal Commission. I said, and this is what I truly believe. I told him about when Jeffrey Jackson got up there and what he said, and he said, it would be presumptuous for us to think that we are God's sole channel of dispensing spiritual knowledge. And that's almost verbatim. If I'm not right, that sounds exactly what he said. And that's what I told him. And I said from a witness standpoint, he lied, because we know that the teaching has always been that this is the only organization that God is supporting, and that everybody else come Armageddon will be destroyed. And I said, I've never believed that. And I said, so when he got up there and he said that, from a JW standpoint, he lied. I said, however, I think in his heart, he was telling the truth, because he probably knows better. And that's really how I feel, that the man really did tell the truth. But how other people have perceived it, I mean, they've been up in arms, because let's face it, we've all had to teach people, hey, if you don't fall in line, you're going to lose your life at Armageddon. And that's ugly. It's just ugly. And I told him that's how I thought, and he agreed. And the funny thing is how he faced that situation. And he says, well, maybe he knows something else that the rest of us haven't caught on yet. And I said, I don't think it's a matter of the rest of us not comprehending. I said, I think a lot of people comprehend that. But why us allude to it and just not come right out and say it? Why not say, okay, we can't say this anymore, because really we don't know, but we just want people to follow. That's fine. I mean, you want people to study for whatever reason or not, so they're just going to have to use something. They're going to have to use a lie. Well, you're going to die on Armageddon if you don't. And I would really like for them to say, okay, we can't do this anymore, so let's change gears here a little bit, just backtrack some and go in a different direction, and not use this dogma anymore. That's, you know, what I'd like to do. And he, you know, he kind of agreed with that, but I wasn't going to argue with him about anything, because that's not what I was there for. I was just letting him know how I felt about certain things. So those were kind of like the two main things we talked about. And like I said, he agreed with a lot of it, because let's face it, there's people that have been hurt. And if you still, I mean, if you're still a Christian, if you still believe in the Bible, or at least the gospel, and the things that Jesus taught, if you still follow along with that, you would have to agree that we can't read heart conditions, and because of our imperfect nature, we are bound to we make mistakes, so we can't be held in judgment. And the idea is that it's always been believed, or it's always been taught, that Armageddon is a period of judgment for us. If you don't cut the mustard, you're going to die. But if you die, that's it. There's no resurrection. Well, that's bull. I mean, I feel that's bull, but that's how it's always been. And there's no resurrection. And then people that come back, well, they're going to have to fall in line. And, you know, that's just, it doesn't seem right to me. And, but to see that was the thing that I was bringing up, is that how do we know that a person's heart condition is still right, but they're not going to follow along with what we're doing? Because I told them, I said, let's face it, had I not been raised as a Jehovah's Witness, I would never have come in by somebody knocking on my door, because I would have been one of the ones that would have never answered. I wouldn't have wanted to talk to people about that. And so therefore, had I not have grown into this religion, I would never have been a part of it. So he agreed with that, and that was pretty good. So he wants to talk more, and I told him, I said, I'll do it. But I mean, it's not going to change my mind as far as going back. Again, I don't have any problems with anybody. I don't even have problems going once in a while, because like I said, I take my kids, but I'm not going to be a part of it anymore. And when it gets to that point, they probably will shun me, and that's fine. That's going to be their right, and I'm not going to be upset at them for that, because I've faced too many things to worry about that anymore. I've faced things where all I had was my close-knit family, and they're there no matter what I do. And my wife, my kids, they're going to be there no matter what. But I don't know. I mean, if a situation comes where they do something like that, and they want to disfellowship me, I don't know. My family, they wouldn't care one way or the other. But my wife's family, I don't know, because her mother lives with us, and I don't foresee anybody in this congregation putting pressure upon her to go move in with her elder son, because after all, he has 4 children and has absolutely no space in his house. And so my wife says, you have to live with the consequences of your actions, and she's absolutely right. I mean, my consequences will eventually get to that point, and like I said, I might personally not care, but how's it going to affect my family? And that's what I have to look out for. But I know somebody is eventually going to see this, and and that's okay, because they need to know excuse me, they need to know the truth. They need to know how I feel, and they need to know how others feel as well. And if they're out there looking for it, they're going to find it, whether it's from me or many of the hundreds of other, maybe thousands of other videos out there. So it doesn't matter. They're going to hear it from somebody. and I think that's all that matters. So I think it was an all-around a kind of a good experience. I wasn't trying to use it to get him out, because that's not my desire. My desire is to, you know, see everybody to just be able to follow what they want to, and to be able to live free to do that, and to not have to worry about what other people think. So yeah, it was a good experience, and you know, maybe we'll have some more, and when I do, I will definitely update with those. But I think it was a good one, and I hope more can come out of it. So anyway, thank you for listening, as always. Thank you for the comments and the likes. Keep them coming. I really appreciate all the comments from everybody, and I appreciate those of you who have subscribed to my videos. Thank you so much, and I hope you all have a blessed day. Goodbye.